Welcome, Sojourners, to the Women's Leadership Mindset series presented by Teresa K. Page, LLC. My name is Teresa Page. I am your host and looking forward to spending these next few moments with all of you. We have a lot of work to get done on today, but first, allow me to invite you to connect with me by subscribing to my website and YouTube channel. Connect and follow me on LinkedIn, and always feel free to contact me directly via email at teresakpagellc@outlook.com. So what is our goal? Well, as an author, speaker, coach, and mentor, my mission is to help professional women renew their leadership mindset with fresh fire and purpose through the mediums of leadership development and coaching services. However, the Women's Leadership Mindset series is a new initiative intended to spotlight powerful women leaders and how they serve the world through their professions and purpose. So with the goal to help women realize their unfulfilled dreams and re-energize the leaders they always were, this platform is designed to enhance, empower, educate, equalize, and even emancipate, as our special guests share their entrepreneurial stories, provide valuable resources, and guidance in a caring, professional, and impactful manner. So, let's get down to business. Well, all right, in today's video, it is my pleasure to welcome to my virtual stage founder and CEO, Dr. Anna Bartolucci of Psych Up Academy of Decatur, Georgia. Dr. Ann Bartolucci is a writing mentor, USA Today best-selling author, and psychologist. She has over 20 novels and novellas in print under her pen name, Cecilia Dominic, and 2 nonfiction books, including Better Sleep for the Overachiever as herself. She combines her love of creativity and psychology in her company, Psych Up Academy, where she guides heart-centered entrepreneurs from the inkling of an idea to the first draft of their world and business-changing book. So to contact Anna, you may visit her on her website at psychupacademy.com. You may also connect with her on social media via LinkedIn at Anna-Bartolucci, as well as Instagram at Psych Up Academy. So we'll bring back this information along with Anna's complimentary gifts before we go. But first, I want to say welcome, Anna. How are you?
Hi, Teresa. I'm great. Thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely. I'm really excited. I know this has been a long time coming. We first initially met a little while ago doing some networking.
Yep.
Yes. And so in between our busy schedules and your travels and all those kind of things, we're finally here to have this exciting conversation on today. So I'm really honored to have you to be a part of this experience. So let's go ahead and get down to business. Beyond your bio, why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
I like that, beyond the bio. Well, I am a cat mom to one very spoiled gray tabby cat who might make an appearance in our video. We'll see. You know, he's a cat, so he does his own thing. I am a gardener. I have raised beds that I just got put in this summer, and I'm super excited to have them. I'm hoping for some late fall vegetables since I didn't get things planted until July. And I'll just say I just love the magic of creativity, and I bring it into just about everything that I do, whether it's cooking or gardening or writing or helping my clients write their own books.
Well, that's pretty cool. Now, with you having a background of psychology, how did you get in the writing space, in the author space? How did it bring you there?
Well, sort of accidentally. I mean, I've always had this not so secret other life as author Cecilia Dominic. I got my first book contract in 2013, and of course I've basically been writing since I was a kid. And I was always told, you know, as young artists are, that, well, you need to get a job where you make money. And so I decided to become a psychologist, which, okay, admittedly, you don't go into mental health for the money, but it is still, maybe a little bit more lucrative than being an artist, at least the way some people think about it. And I had already published several books, including Business Basics for Private Practice in 2020, when my business mentor approached me and asked me if I would like to expand my continuing education offerings through her platform, The Knowledge Tree. So at that point, I had taught a workshop on insomnia treatment, which is the main focus of my psychology practice, which I still do have. And everything was going online, so they didn't have to rent ballrooms or pay exorbitant amounts for coffee service. And so, let's just go ahead and teach a lot more things. And so my first suggestion was, okay, how about hysteria and the occult in Victorian times for all of the cool research I did for my steampunk novels? I'm also a medical history geek. And she said, okay, yes, and how about how to write a book? Oh, yeah, of course, I can do that too. It was kind of one of those moments that I remind myself of when I'm working with my clients because, we tend to discount how much we know. And so I taught the workshop several times for them, and out of that came PsychUp Academy because, of course, people wanted more help and guidance after the workshop. And I found that I really loved it.
Well, I absolutely love that something like this found you by accident. Now, I tell you, Anna, one of the things that I find intriguing is your pen name,
Mm-hmm.
Cecilia Dominic. Can you tell us more about Cecilia Dominic? What does that particular what does she look like? How is she different from you when it comes to writing? And why did you choose a pen name to write up under?
Well, I'll answer your last question first. Because I have a psychology practice, I wanted to keep my writing separate. And I started as Cecilia Dominic back in 2008 when I started a wine blog called The Random Enophile. And once I got my first book contract, the wine blog kind of went out the window because I had other things I needed to write. But it went strong for a good while. And I chose to write under a pen name because I didn't want potential patients Googling me or searching me online and finding my wine blog. And so I already had, I guess, a little audience when I got my first book contract. And so I just switched it over from there. And I chose the name because I grew up Catholic and I had confirmation. And when you are confirmed, you choose a confirmation name. And so I've always loved music. I played piano and saxophone when I was younger. And so I chose Saint Cecilia, the patron saint of music. And then Dominic came from my middle name, which is Dominique. So yes, my full name is the mouthful Anna Dominique Bartolucci.
Well, I absolutely love that, and I love the idea of keeping your writing and your practice very separate. So I love
Mm-hmm.
that being able to compartmentalize in that way. So I guess as we move forward in our conversation, one of the things that I noticed in your bio is that you have written novels as well as novellas.
Mm-hmm.
For our listening audience, can you lay the groundwork to kind of share? For those who may not know, what is the difference between the two? And especially for our authors or aspiring authors that may be listening to our conversation.
Oh yeah, great question. Well, novels are typically, starting about 40,000 words for a really short novel on up, whereas novellas are typically, around 30,000 words, so they're smaller. And so I've written 17 novels and 4 novellas. And my 4 novellas are, one of them is sort of a bonus story that goes with the Lycanthropy series, that's A Million Shadows, and then the other 3 are Noble Secrets, which is a prequel novella to the Ether Psychic series, Truth Seeker, which is a prequel to the Dreamweavers and Truth Seekers series, and there's another one. This is so funny. It's like somebody forgetting like one of their children. It's like, I know there's another one around here somewhere. Okay, let me look. Oh, that's right, The Art of Piracy. So that was actually in the box set that was the USA Today bestselling box set, and so we were supposed to write short for that one. And that was the first book in my Inspector Davidson mysteries. And so yeah, essentially the novellas are shorter and the story's a lot more compact, and they're great as yeah, either bonuses or prequels, or some people just really like to read and write short, which is fine. Whereas it's interesting with the nonfiction book, I've had a couple of clients where they came in right at about 20,000, which, okay, pro tip, that's kind of the minimum that you need to actually have a book with a for real spine on it.
Yes.
And then, I have other clients who are writing a lot longer. But I mean, that's the nice thing is that I think we don't realize that we have that much flexibility with regard to book length. Oh, but I did want to go back to one question you asked me, which is how is Cecilia different from Anna?
Yes.
And it was funny because when I first started as Cecilia, I was okay, so that was 2008-ish for the blog, and then 2013 for books. So I was basically in my 30s. And once I passed 40, Cecilia, who was a lot more outspoken, a lot more confident, probably because of all of those convention panels that I did, it's kind of merged. So there's really no difference at this point, personality wise.
Well, I think that's pretty cool. That you all your pen name and who you actually are is very similar. Very similar. Now Anna, you I know that you're probably in your 40s, so am I.
Hmm.
And to be able to share in the public domain so many of your written work for like 20 novels and novellas in addition to two non-fiction books. How do you find time to write in between with your very busy psychology work as well as with your creative space? How do you, and I know that you've been writing since you were a younger woman, but how do you find the time to write with such a busy schedule?
It's really all about making time to write. And that's actually what I provide for my clients and students in Psych Up Academy. And I'll be honest, is like the times I provide for them are also provided like for me as well. And so we have protected time during the week, Monday from 9 to 10, and then Friday from 9:30 to 11, when we all come together and do co-writing over video. And then each of my cohorts in the long-term program, they each have a bonus hour every other week for co-writing as well when they're not critiquing each other. And so, yeah, it's really all about putting it in your schedule. And then, also if I'm on a deadline, I'll write in the evenings or on weekends as well. But I typically try to keep my off time as off time.
Absolutely. And I love the way you mentioned that that a reserve time is protected time. I
Yes.
think that's really important. Now, for those the aspiring writers, and even those who are still in that writing space, they may have already published once, but they still haven't gotten it down packed as far as setting aside protected time. Can you share with us why that is so important? And then we're going to shift in just a minute into your
Mhm.
organization. But can you share with us, especially for writers, why creating that protected time is so necessary for the writing journey?
It's, yeah, it's crucial. And part of the reason is that a lot of times people consider their writing to be separate from the rest of their work or the rest of their career. Whereas it's really not, especially if you're writing a book to help you with your business, or you're writing a book to bring your message to the world that is also what you do in your business. And because of that it's mental fallacy, people tend to, they'll say, okay, I'm going to write from this time to this time, but then stuff comes up. Life happens. And yeah, there are true emergencies that you have to address, but, a lot of times, writing that social media post is not really an emergency. Or, y- you know, picking up groceries at that time is not really an emergency. But it's really that mindset, okay, I really need to protect this time in order to do what I need to do and make the progress that I need to make. And I think a lot of people also get maybe scared that they're not going to do what they want to do during that time. And so it's just easier to avoid it. And so yes, we also need to face ourselves in that way as well through our writing process.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, thank you so much for sharing that with us, Anna. Now let's shift into the business, Psych Up
Hmm.
Academy. So I know you've already been giving us a sneak peek just a little bit, but take us further into
Hmm.
your organization, what it's really all about, who it is that you serve, and what was your motivations? I think you kind of mentioned that a little earlier, what your motivation was and how it started and how it came to
Hmm.
be, but maybe take us further into your motivations. So take us inside of Psych Up Academy.
Ah, yes. Well, yes, it started with the workshops and then consultation groups from people who took the workshops and wanted extra help and support. However, I realized last year that people weren't really finishing their books or making the progress that they needed to make. And so I shifted. And writing tends to be a very solitary activity. And people tend to be very afraid of, oh no, what if somebody doesn't like it? Or, are people actually going to want to read this? And you're not getting that immediate feedback through the process. And so I decided to shift Psych Up Academy to be more of a cohort program. So essentially how people come into and through my world is that they come into a free workshop, like the one that we're going to mention at the end. Also, then hopefully they'll come into my Start Your Book Challenge, which is my lower ticket offer. And if this does go out, so at the earliest date you gave me in the range, I do have a Start Your Book Challenge starting right after that on September 8th. And that's essentially so that they can lay the groundwork and really get some of that confusion out of the way, like clarifying their ideas, figuring out which publishing path is right for them and how it aligns with their values and their goals. And so, yes, aligning with values is a big part of the work because that's what people need to keep them motivated. And then I have an 8-week accelerator where I only take 5 at a time. And it's essentially 8 weeks to first chapter, marketing plan, and book outline, and the students give each other feedback all the way through. I also, like, part of my motivation is that I want to make nonfiction writing fun. And so I bring in myth and fairy tale structure into that accelerator to help people with their own writer's journey, as well as the journey of the people who are going to be reading their books, because it makes more fun to write. Also, we are wired for these stories, and so it makes it a lot more fun to read. The first time I ran the accelerator, it was so wildly successful that all 5 of them wanted to continue on with me. So I was like, okay, what's next? I'm like, okay, let me come up with something. So now I have a 6 to 12 month program for people to continue in their cohort to continue writing their books and supporting each other. And they also critique the books as they are being written. So they get used to getting feedback as well as giving feedback. And they are getting that encouragement that writers are so desperate for and missing during the process.
Well, I think that's pretty cool, and I love the idea of being able to of writing together. Can you take us there as far as and most of the time when we're seeing writers, or at least the old school way, I'm starting to
Mm-hmm.
see that writing in cohorts or writing in groups, that's something that's been emerging over the last couple of years. And it may have been even further back, but I've been seeing such a surgence of that right lately, that it's not good for us to write alone, especially,
Mm-hmm.
authors and things like that. Can you talk about the power of being able to write as a collective or either as a collaborative, and why is it so important for authors to get feedback while they're in the midst of the writing process? So tell us about the power of the collective writing, as well as why it's important for us to get some type of feedback as we're writing.
They're very related. When it comes to the collective process, we know from the literature on neurodiverse people, so I have ADHD. And there is this thing we do called body doubling where we can be in the same room as somebody who's doing the same thing that we are or on video. That actually helps us to focus and stick with it. So that is actually, literally writing at the same time as somebody, being in their real or their virtual space. And that really does help people to stay focused and not get distracted, not get pulled away by the various alerts and whatnot. And it's also important for them to get feedback, well, for a couple of reasons. One I mentioned, which is the encouragement. And also it helps with motivation because sure, we'll disappoint ourselves, but we don't like disappointing other people. And so if you know you have somebody who's waiting to read what you're writing, you are more likely to actually do it. That's been the basis of critique groups for forever. And yes, I've been part of a critique group now for probably close to 15 years. So yeah, it's been a while, actually more. And then it's also important to get feedback through the process so that you know that you are on the right track. And I have editors that I will refer to after my process because I'll take people through first draft. Like I said, I prefer not to edit. And it makes the editor's job so much easier if they've already got something that people have essentially looked at already who are not the writers because, we don't know our own blind spots. We don't know what we're missing, or we think we're explaining something clearly enough and we're not. And so it's helpful to have that feedback as we go along with like, okay, could you clarify this? Could you say a little bit more about that? It's also helps us to shape how we're thinking about our book as we're going along.
Absolutely. And can you share with us, Anna, that, while I know that the feedback while you're writing is very important to the process, but how would you suggest that from a writer's point of view that you can receive feedback or critique during the writing process, but still stay very, very true to the message that you're trying to get across? So while that is important, how does the author still remain authentic and true to the message that they're trying to get across? I guess I'm trying to ask it the right way. How do you keep the line from getting blurred versus somebody else's opinion, so that the writer does not shift course from the original way that they're trying to write? I hope I'm asking that as clear as I possibly can. So yeah, what is that dividing line? Yes, I can receive feedback, but I also know that I need to stay true to what the message that I know that I've been called to share with the world. How do we do that?
Yes, well, a lot of that depends on the format of the feedback and what is and isn't, I guess, allowed. Because yes, I have been part of critique groups where somebody told me, well, okay, how about you write the end of the story this way? And I'm like, no, it's the end of my story. I'm not going to do that. So I try to be very careful when I'm structuring my groups to, well, A, not have people who are going to do that, and B, also make sure people have the format for the feedback. And so it's not necessarily the ideas or the concepts that are getting critiqued, it's more the mechanics of it and making sure that people who are reading your work understand that core message that you're trying to get across. And so we don't change the message, we just tweak how it's expressed for clarity.
I love that. Don't change the message, just make those little tweaks for clarity. I love that.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for giving us some insight. Now, Anna, I'm really enjoying our conversation, and I'm enjoying the expertise that you're sharing with us on today. One of the things when it comes to building a business, both of us are from the Southeast. I've been in Atlanta for such a long time. I'm visiting my mom a little further up in North Carolina for a little bit. But one of the things I'm sure you have heard in the Atlanta metro is that people like to work with people that they know, they like, and they trust. And so we know that when it comes to the author and the story that they want to tell, it's almost like they're protecting it like a baby.
Hmm.
And they may not want all of that insight and all of those other kind of things. How do you establish trust when you are um, bringing in clients, potential clients to work with you with Psych Up Academy? How do you establish that trust that you're going to help them to convey the message that they want to release to the world and help them stay on track to protect that baby? How do
Hmm.
you establish that trust with them?
Well, I think it helps that I'm a psychologist and people know that we're very good at keeping secrets, even really juicy
Nice.
ones. And also, yeah, I believe it's in the structure of the business. And so, yeah, we talk about confidentiality at the start of the cohorts. And, when people are going through the initial programs, especially the Start Your Book Challenge, it's like, yeah, it's completely optional whether you want to share or not. I will say that, I have heard agents and editors talk about people who are scared to submit their work because they're afraid their ideas will get stolen. And they're like, no, we're being bombarded by people's ideas all freaking day and night. And like, we've got too many to steal yours, so don't worry about it. And yeah, and that's also why I vet my people before they come into the cohort. Like I said, I only allow 5, and I only invite those in who I know have those high ethical standards to, keep confidential everybody's book and even their book topics.
Well, that's pretty cool, and I love that whole confidentiality aspect to it. Have you ever bumped into where someone has taken someone's ideas, or even if there was just ideas that was discussed that somehow it landed in somebody else's writing versus where it was originally intended? Has that ever happened to you before?
No, I would say the closest that I've seen is when people are writing on similar topics in their in the group, and it usually comes up as a conversation of, okay, I need your book to come out so that I can so I can cite you for this.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I
so
love that too.
they'll give each other credit for it.
Yeah, it's almost like a two for one there. Kind
Exactly.
of. Absolutely. I love that. Now, Anna, can you take us behind the scenes, establishing, especially from an entrepreneurial point of view, starting a business and you have already seen great success, and I know that you're going to have continued success. But we also know that it's not always sexy. It's not always, it doesn't always go according to plans. Why don't you take us behind the curtain of Psych Up Academy as you have established it, and maybe share with us either one of your most funny experiences or one of your most intense behind the scenes adventures that you've experienced thus far?
Oh, wow. I mean, I can give you an experience I had this morning
Hey.
that was definitely one of those, not sexy business experiences. So I was in a networking group and somebody was presenting and they're a book coach. And as this woman is presenting, it's like, oh crap, this is everything that I teach as well. And then she starts, and then I'm like, well, at least I have this one workshop that would be a great follow up to this. And then she's like, and then I also teach people how to do this. And I'm like, really? Really? And so I had to come back to my core and I actually typed it out. What makes me different? And
Right.
it was a good reminder for me as well as, what I tell my students is like, people can still be writing about the same topic that you write about, but you have your own experiences and your own insight into it, and that's what makes you different. And so, yes, I'm different from this and other book coaches because I'm a psychologist, because I bring the fiction aspect into it, because of my spiritual practice. I bring a little bit of magic and fun into it. And so I'm going to attract the people who want that aspect of it. And also one of my first business mentor, she was a big proponent of the concept of abundance. And I'm like, of course, there's plenty of business to go around. But sometimes you jump out of your skin and you bring yourself back into it.
And I love the way you you said that you had to take a minute to come back to your core to discover what was different
Mhm.
about you. How quickly did it take you to come up with those 3 points that this is what's different about me so that when I am sharing with others, and especially if there's someone that's similar in the space, how long did it take you to come up with that? And what was your process to come up with those 3 quick pointers? Especially for those of us who are always networking and we may bump
Mhm.
into someone that does something similar. What was your, I guess, what was your tactic to come up really
Mhm.
quickly with those 3 points?
Well, first, here's a psychologist and me saying, okay, we need to feel our feelings and we'll
Okay.
let them happen. Okay. And I found myself like I was hunched over like this, going, oh no, oh no. And then I was like, okay, deep breath, physically come out of it, sit up straight. You're awesome. And also, I've had really good business coaching, or as you have been in networking groups with me, I've got my intro down. And
Right.
so like, okay, I can, luckily they came to mind fairly quickly because yeah, I've had to explain that before. And also it was that tweak of because people were responding really well to her, it's like, okay, this is something that people want. This is something that people need. And so it's good that I'm here for these clients who are going to be attracted to me and my energy and the way I do things.
I love that. I absolutely love that. So feel your feelings, sit up
Hmm.
straight, know that you're awesome. And that business coaching is really key. Either
Hmm.
coaching or some type of mentorship, that's key. So thank you for giving us those three quick pointers.
Sure.
Uh, so I know we're going to shift in just a moment, but one of the things that I was really intrigued by uh, in your bio was the fact that you have written nonfiction books about better sleep for overachievers.
Hmm.
And so I don't want us to get too deep into that, but certainly I think that we're living in a time where there's so much going on around us. There's a lot of information coming at us one way or another. Either we're on our cell phones or something. It almost seems like there's overload. So when it's time for us to go to sleep, um, you know, we don't always go to sleep as we should or get our
Hmm.
downtime, or even if we're entrepreneurs, it seems like we're in this hustle culture. Like, I gotta go, I gotta, so there's no turn off. There's actually almost a negative connotation that if you get sleep, that if you're an entrepreneur, that you're not supposed to sleep. For us living in the type of culture that we're in right now, where it's in a lot of ways overstimulated, just share with the audience, and especially for those who are authors and all of those and entrepreneurs, how do we just get better sleep? Whether we're an overachiever or not, how do we shut it down so that we are resting? Because we know that resting, in order to rest, that's where we get our best ideas, where we can be our most creative. So can
Hmm.
you tell us how can we get better sleep and why sleep is so important for us?
Yes. So I get this question a lot. And essentially, what I do as a sleep psychologist is I help people get out of their own way when it comes to sleep. And yes, our modern culture is not that old. Like, have you, like, do you remember the television show Downton Abbey?
I don't think so. I don't think
Okay.
so. You said Downton Abbey.
Yes. It was on PBS probably, I want to say about like 10, 15 years ago.
No,
And
but tell us about it.
okay, so it's all about this family where I won't go into it, but basically they've been left without an heir to the estate, and the incoming heir is this cousin who's a lawyer. And of course, this is a noble family, early 1900s. Uh, I guess the next in line went down on the Titanic, and so they go and visit the lawyer heir during the week, and he said, "Okay, I can come start learning the estate on the weekend." And the Dowager Duchess says, "What is a week end?" And I love this example because it shows that it was not that long ago that we didn't have this big shift between 5 days of the week versus 2 days of the week in our circadian rhythm. And so that's one thing is connect with and honor your circadian rhythm. And part of the issue with hustle culture is like, how many times have you heard you have to get up at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning and do this set of things in order to be successful? And it's one of my big pet peeves because we all have a different circadian rhythm. Many of us are not on that rhythm of getting up super early in the morning. Like if I try to do that, I'm miserable. And I can tell you, I am not successful if I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, when is
Yes.
it nap time? And so part of that is like figuring out and honoring your own circadian rhythm. And as entrepreneurs, we have the luxury of being able to do that because we are not typically shoved into a 9 to 5 job. We're working our own hours. However, we do have the other end of it, which is that it's really hard to shut off work. So it's, yes, closing down work, especially those of us who work from home, it's kind of hard. Shutting down work,
Yeah.
and then, yeah, having that relaxation and wind down time and having at least an hour of that be without screens because screens are stimulating for our brains and they dampen our own natural melatonin release. And typically the things that we are doing on screens are not really that relaxing anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, honor your circadian rhythm and then be sure you're giving yourself that wind down time.
I love that. I love that. And just for our listening audience who may not have heard the word circadian, I can honestly, if I'm not a stupid person, but
Mm-hmm.
I think I've heard the word circadian maybe for the first time about a year or two ago. So
Mm-hmm.
for those who don't know what that is, circadian rhythm, can you give us a brief definition so everyone is clear on that path on how to honor that?
Oh yes, thank you for asking for clarification on that. Yes, our circadian rhythm is our internal clock. Tells you when to eat, when to be sleepy, when to be hungry, and it is, you know, we can adjust it to a certain point, but a lot of times we have our own core circadian rhythm that we can't really manipulate that much. And so, you know, some people they say are morning people, some people are night people, some people are in between people. That is the circadian rhythm.
I love that. I absolutely love that. So thank you for taking us into giving us some better insights to help us get out of our own way. So to honor our internal clock as well as 1 hour before bed without screens. Is that how
Hmm.
we shut down? That's
Yep.
awesome. That's awesome. So thank you so much. Now, Anna, I'm really excited about our conversation on today, and I've really just been enjoying you just kind of taking us on your path with you. So as we prepare to kind of downshift in our conversation, um, one of the things is if you know me, you know that as far as the foundation of my organization is to employ love as
Hmm.
the ultimate success factor to renew women's leadership mindset with fresh fire and purpose. And so, and I believe that from a business perspective, that love is not just an emotion, but it is that it gives us a competitive edge so that we
Hmm.
can be powerful in business, powerful as leaders, that we can be innovative with our businesses, that we could be fully present for our teams, our stakeholders, our clients, as well as be knowledgeable about our industry trends and to be benevolent in our community service. So I do believe that love is a game changer for us, not just in our emotional spaces, but also in our business spaces and our leadership spaces. So understanding that about me,
Hmm.
how would you say, how would you first and foremost describe yourself as a leader in the work that you do, as well as how has love shaped you as the leader that you are?
Oh, what a lovely question. Well, I would say that uh, as for the type of leader that I am, I see myself as being more of a mentor and a guide than you know, standing up in front of people and telling them what to do. Like I will tell my sleep patients that I'm not going to tell you to do anything that I'm not willing to do. And so typically I will not tell people to, you know, give up their cup of coffee in the morning. I will admit that getting up at the same time every day is a work in progress, but at least I'm trying. So, and also as a, you know, as a boss, I came to the philosophy of if somebody works for me, when they leave my employ, well, first I want them to have a good experience and stay with me for as long as possible. And that has definitely been true, that people have stuck around with me. And if they've left, it's been for external reasons. But I want them to leave a better and more skilled person than they were when they came to work for me. And so I kind of see that as maybe kind of as a nurturing style of leadership. Also with my writing students, it's reminding them, okay, let's balance that. Yes, you want to get your book done, but let's also balance the fact that we need to be gentle and compassionate with ourselves in the creative process, because somebody yelling at you that you need to get your book done in X number of days is just putting unnecessary pressure on the process. And so it's like, no, we need to let the process unfold as it's going to unfold for each individual writer. And so even though I run cohorts, there's still a lot of room for individual variability in how things are done. And so, yeah, that's what I would say is my style of leadership. And I would say that how love has influenced me in my business is that, I mean, that's basically the kind of environment that I have thrived in, is where it's mentoring, where it's nurturing, where it's okay, it's all about personal development, not just making money and productivity.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And one of the questions that I like to ask a lot of my guests is this next question I'm getting ready to ask you, because when I think about writing, when I think about books, I think about something that an individual has the opportunity to put a particular message or a particular idea in written form that has the potential to live the next 1,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I believe. That is not just for our culture today, but that it can benefit generations much, much further ahead. So with all of the written work that you have done thus far, and not just your written work, but even the work that you have done in psychology and how you support other authors, how do you want future generations to benefit from the work that you're creating today?
My mission statement for all of my work, regardless of whether it's the writing, the psychology, the book mentoring, is that I want to help people to see themselves and others with more compassion. That is basically it. And so if I can make that sort of difference with the world, then I know that I have done my job.
I love that. That's absolutely beautiful. Now, Anna, we have an opportunity to educate, and you've been educating us the entire time, the entire time. But let's talk to those as we prepare to wrap up. Let's talk to those individuals that have a desire to do something different with their life.
Mhm.
There is a dream that they have not realized, whether it's a dream career or a dream business. And they know it's there.
Mhm.
It hasn't left them alone. It's not just a fleeting idea. It's something that has sat with them for a little while, but they haven't taken that leap to step into that space for one reason or another. What
Mhm.
tip, what encouragement, or what resource would you give to someone that wants to step into that dream that they have for themselves, but they just haven't taken that leap of faith yet?
Oh man, so one of my students is putting out a book on just that. And so I wish it was already out because it would be perfect. But I will introduce you to him because you need to have him on your podcast.
Okay.
Yes, he's the best. But as for, what I would say to somebody right now, okay, here we go. I'm gonna get close to my microphone. I'm gonna say, because you help mostly women, right?
Women, and there's always men that's ear hustling too. So,
Okay.
yes.
All right. Dear one, that dream, that whisper in your heart, the one that won't leave you alone, you're totally worth it. And just take that little first step, and the next one will be shown to you. And listen to your heart, listen to your intuition. Don't be afraid to take some risks. And remember, everything's an experiment. If it doesn't go your way, you can try something else.
Oh, I love that. I love that. You hear that, audience? You're totally worth it. Take that first little step. Awesome, awesome. Now, what about those who've already taken the step, Anna? They're living the dream. They've already, they know that they're awesome.
Hmm.
They've already done some of the work, but they might be feeling a bit stuck or a bit frustrated. They've come in, bumped up against a barrier and they feel a bit stuck and frustrated. What would you give to them?
I would say that maybe they're the ones who need to write the book because it will help them to connect with what they do and why they do it in a really deep and meaningful and fulfilling way. Because
I
writing
love
books
that.
does, yeah, it doesn't just change the lives of the reader, it changes the life of the author as well.
It truly does. I love that. Write a book.
Hmm.
Write a book, tell the story. Now, Anna, you have a couple of complimentary gifts for our listening audience on today. One of them is a free monthly webinar on value-based goal setting for authors, and the other one is also for a clarification session with you.
Hmm.
Tell us about these awesome gifts that you're offering to our listening audience.
Yes, thank you. Well, the webinar is, yes, essentially, like you said, values-based goal setting for authors. And as I mentioned earlier, we need to have something that we can anchor to when life starts lifing and things start getting in the way of the writing. It's like, how do we make that a priority? How do we make sure we're protecting that time? It's hooking your writing to your values. And so in this webinar, I go through that process. I help people to reverse engineer their values from previous projects so they can really see what's driven them and motivated them before. Also help them to see how you can use your values to get out of common writing excuses like, I don't have time or I'm too busy. So that's bringing in the psychology part as well. And then each month I'm tweaking it to be around the new moon and to bring in themes of the new moon. So for example, I just did one on the new moon in Virgo, and Virgo is all about discipline and consistency and, lots of things that we need to balance ourselves out as writers. And so it, each one is going to continue to be a little bit different. So even if you come to one, you can still come to other ones and learn a little bit more. And then as for the idea clarification session, yes, I offer a free 30-minute book idea clarification session so that, we'll meet, we'll talk about your book idea. It's all completely confidential. And people have told me that these sessions are super useful. They're really helpful. And, people even, come away from these sessions and gone and on to write their books and not necessarily even had to follow up with me.
Well, that's pretty cool. Now, are either one of these connected to the challenge that you have that's coming up on September 8th?
Well, thank you. So there will be a little bit of the value stuff in the challenge, but you don't necessarily need to have done the values-based goal setting workshop to benefit from the challenge. Yes, so the challenge is to help you with that idea clarification. It is to help you to start connecting with your audience from the very start of the process. So, you'll have people who are wanting to read your book when it's done. We'll also talk about different publishing paths because that's something that a lot of people get very overwhelmed by and how those match with your values and your goals for your book and your business. And then I will put on my psychologist hat and yes, we'll talk about how to keep going when those inevitable stumbling blocks come up.
Awesome, awesome. So I know that we have the important links for the free monthly webinar as well as for the idea clarification session. So we're going to make sure we put that in the bio. Now, where can we also learn more about the challenge as well, Anna?
Well, I can give you that link as well.
Awesome, awesome. So we're going to make sure that we put the September 8th challenge in the bio as well. Well, Anna, it was such an honor to be able to sit with you and have this amazing conversation with you on today. What are your final words to our listening audience that will take us through the remainder of the third quarter into the fourth quarter as we start to look towards 2026? What are your last words to take us home?
Well, no matter what happens externally with the world, with the country, Remember that you are worthy and your words are magic, and that both you and your words can change the world. So keep at it.
You hear that, audience? Both you and your words can change the world. Well, Anna, thank you so much. It was such an honor to have you on today. Well, ladies, we want to say thank you for joining us. Remember, you can connect with Anna by visiting her website at psychupacademy.com. You may also connect with her on social media via LinkedIn at Anna-Bartolucci, as well as on Instagram at PsychUpAcademy. And please be sure to take advantage of her complimentary gifts, which is a free monthly webinar on value-based goal setting for authors, as well as a complimentary 30-minute idea clarification session. So to access these special offerings, we want you to see the important links in the bio. In addition to Anna's upcoming challenge on September the 8th, please be sure to see all of that great information in the bio. Now, leaders, do you have an important story to tell that would inspire others to step into their dream career or business? If so, check the bio to learn how to become one of my special guests. And also, I would like all of you and invite all of you to check out my new book, My Journey to Wholeness, Love the Success Factor. Now available in Amazon and Barnes & Noble, this book and its companion reference guide workbook is a tangible demonstration of how God's love develops women to lead, create, and to generate wealth in the fullness of our equality, purpose, and business. So please check the bio to learn more. So we want to say thank you for joining in for another episode of the Women's Leadership Mindset series. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, here's to the journey, and let's move forward.